All right. Well, I'm Joe Washam, Advocacy Chair for the Northwest ISD uh, Council of PTAs. We assist all 29 PTAs located in NISD, and I'm also an advocacy chair at Justin Elementary School and Pike Middle School. I've got a sixth grade student, or son in the sixth grade, and my spouse is an educator at Justin Elementary. So I'm pretty excited about being able to host this forum on behalf of all of our PTAs and all the stakeholders here in Northwest ISD, and for all 25,000 plus students that the school district helps. This forum is for place 7 on the NISD Board of Trustees. My two guests tonight are Mr. Ron Hastings. Ron, can you say hello?
Hello.
And Miss Jennifer Murphy, please say hello.
Hi, everyone.
All right, this is live on Facebook. After we finish tonight, I will upload a version to be on YouTube, on the advocacy page I have for YouTube, which will be placed on the Facebook page also, and people can share it if they want. For people who don't have Facebook, that's understandable, and like I said, can share it so they can watch if they want. So this form, I'll go over the guidelines real quick. We are going to flip a coin to figure out who goes first. I was in the military. Ron, you remember these probably, right? Did you deal with any
Yes.
when you were in back in the day?
Yes.
So we have Texas on one side, and we've got 1st Cav Division on the other side. And so we'll flip a coin to decide who goes first. And the format will be a question is asked to, we'll say, the first person, they get 2 minutes to respond to the question. And then the second person will get 2 minutes to respond to that. And then the first person asked will then have 30 seconds if they want to provide any sort of rebuttal or additional information at all. And then it's flipped for the next time. So that first person asked will then get 30 seconds at the end, and then it rotates all the way through. So
on Facebook only.
For right now, we have 15 questions, give or take. We might go a little bit more or less. This depends on the questions and also our time too. As I promised both of you, I didn't want to take anything more than 90 minutes tonight. And with everyone's attention span also, I figure that's pretty well also too. So real quick, before we flip the coins, I would like to have each one of you introduce yourselves. Ron, if you go first, just a couple, minute or two, introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Ron Hastings. I'm currently serving on the board as in place 7. And I was filling out a term for a former board member. I've got over 30 years of experience in education as a classroom teacher, coach, school counselor, assistant principal, associate principal, director of counseling, and I have a master's in counseling, plus additional hours in administration. Well, I have my principal's certification and then another 20 hours above that. I live in the southern part of the district, down by Eaton High School. And I just really enjoy taking care of the kids in the district. That's why I'm in it, is for the kids. That's it.
Excellent, thank you. Miss Jennifer Murphy, if you introduce yourself to everyone, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Murphy. I am a 10-year resident of the district. I have 2 boys here in the district, one at Northwest High School in the STEM Academy and one in 8th grade at Tidwell. We are a family of athletes and math and science fanatics, so we've got a lot going on. My personal background, I have been working in nonprofit fundraising and philanthropy for about 20 years. And that includes small nonprofits, large nonprofits. It also includes public school districts here in the state of Texas, down in San Antonio. I also worked here in the school district in various capacities for a few years with substitute teaching, with mentoring in the AVID program, and with STAR tutoring as well at Granger Elementary. And one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved in serve in a greater capacity with as a school board member is because I've been involved in so many different things in this district, and this district has given so much to our family. And I just want to be able to help it get to the next level and get into the future in a really great place.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Time to flip the coin now. I've got bad hands, so I will do my best to not fumble this too bad. So, Jennifer, heads or tails? Heads will be, did we say which one heads will be? We'll do head. We'll actually do heads as first cav. Okay. Since it does have the head, the horse head on there actually.
Mhm.
And then tails will be Texas. So heads or tails?
I'll take heads. I'll take heads.
Okay. See, I knew I was gonna fumble it. All right, heads it is. All righty. So, I'll be a little loose with the time too. You know, I'm not gonna be, you know, this isn't a presidential debate, and I'm not gonna mute anyone or anything like that. So, we'll just get right into it though. So, and for everyone watching who watched, if anyone watched the other forum, there will be questions that are similar, and some questions will be different also too. So, let's just get started though. So, Ms. Murphy, do you believe that there is a lack of equitable education experience that remote learners are having compared to their in-person peers? And if you do believe so, what solutions do you believe will improve the remote learning experience?
Yeah, so I do believe there is an equity happening there. And I base my thought there on the fact that I've talked to some families who have been in remote learning, and it's been a constant struggle for them as they've chosen to keep their kids home. It just seems like the workload is extremely difficult, especially for secondary students. And you know, the back and forth is tough too. Those kids who are having to go back to remote learning because they've been exposed to the virus, and then go back to in-person a couple weeks later, there seems to be some inequity there as well. So yes, I do believe that that is definitely there. And talking to a couple of my friends who have gone through this so far, you know, it seems like maybe one of the things that we could consider doing is having some type of a liaison, a remote learning liaison that's not the teacher, that's not the secondary teachers, because those teachers are doing so much on campus already. And that they have to keep teaching these kids as well when they go into their remote setting. So we just need someone who's checking in on these kids all the time to make sure that they're able to keep up with this work, or do they need more accommodations? Because those kids who may have some learning disabilities may be falling behind even more in their remote learning capacity. And, you know, they may not be the ones who can reach out and say, hey, I need more help. So it may be something that we just need to look at and really assess. You know, we've only been in this for what, a few weeks now in full back to school or full remote. And, you know, there's definitely lessons to be learned. And I know that the district is working on them. So there's definitely some assessment that needs to happen.
All right, thank you. Ron, same question for you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Real quick, also.
There is no doubt.
I was just gonna say, I will.
Go ahead.
I'll offer to repeat the question after every time also, after every first person answers it, just to make sure. So I just wanted to offer that. So sorry, go ahead.
There is no doubt that there is some inadequacies, and because of that, there's some inequity between remote and in-person learning. It's one of those where You don't, no excuses, nothing. I think that the teachers are doing a great job. We've asked a lot of them, and remote learning the way it is right now, with the students taking on a full load, is difficult. I think that we have to make sure that the teachers and counselors and administrators at each campus have opened their email up and are constantly communicating with the students and with parents about changes. I know we've had some real problems with two of the middle schools with trying to get Edgenuity working, and we're trying to fine tune that. We're spending more and more time, and I think that probably by the time everybody is back to in-person learning, we'll probably have it all figured out. But right now, we're still have to work on that. We've got a great curriculum department. We've got a great IT department, and I think those two working together will help. But again, I think and the parents need to make sure that if there's a problem, they need to let the principal at that school know, or their assistant principal at that school, if it's a secondary, know, so that we're not just rocking along thinking everything is great. We know we need to improve.
All right, thank you. Ms. Murphy, is there anything else you'd like to add?
All I could add really is just to piggyback off of what Mr. Hastings said. This is uncharted territory, right, for everyone. And our teachers are just working nonstop, and we just have to keep supporting them. We have to keep supporting the kids. We just have to keep communicating, and we just have to keep going to figure it out. And you're right, we probably will figure it out when it's all back to in-person 100%, but you know what? You never know what can happen again.
Correct. All right. You know what? That's a great segue. I'm actually going to bump a question up a couple, and we're going to go to this one. So, Mr. Hastings, you'll be the first one to be asked this then. So, thinking of that, think of the remote learning and the difficulty on the students and even some of the families, especially for like the little ones, especially at first. I think hopefully now most of them have an understanding of it, but the pressure that it puts on the teachers, though, with that, both with also the flux of COVID cases too. Do you think that the administration from what's the definition of administration, from principals all the way up to the superintendent? Do you think they have a good pulse on the needs of the teachers, their mental health right now during these times, that they feel like that their voices are actually heard?
Well, taking on a poll from last year, I think that the teachers know that their voices are heard. I think it's really important that the principals, like you said, administration from campus level all the way up through the superintendent, really have their ears to the ground. They need to know what the teachers are feeling. There's a lot of pressure. They love the kid. The teachers love the kids. They want the kids in their classroom. They want them to be successful. And this is as frustrating to the teachers. And so because of that, I think that they struggle. We do have a hotline. The district has a hotline for mental health for teachers and staff members, where they can call, and there's nobody keeping track of it or anything like that. This is just an opportunity for them to get some emotional and psychological help. But I think that that's another one of those ongoing things where we've got to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the teachers so they can meet the needs of the students. That's the key right there.
All right, thank you. Ms. Murphy, would you like me to repeat that question?
it's the administration and seeing if they have the pulse, right, of the
Right.
teachers. So I do think
I
that
guess I
there
could
is,
rephrase it, make sure that the teachers have the support, actually have the, are having, have that support, that they need to
yeah,
these trying times.
I think that I think our teachers have support. I think they have the support that they need, but I don't think that anybody knows if we all have the support we all need right now, right? I mean, since March, every one of us has struggled with something, and it's easier for some people to ask for help than it is for others. And it's just like that in any profession. Any teacher may struggle with something right now more than another teacher, and they may not be able to ask for help. But I believe that every person in administration feels the weight of what's happening right now on our campuses with COVID. I mean, they're literally putting their lives on the line too by going to work every day. My kids, my oldest son is at Northwest, and there have been several staff members who have come down with the virus, and that's them putting their health before anything else, right? So I think that everyone is doing everything that they absolutely can at the campus to make this to take weight off of the shoulders of our teachers. And in my own personal interactions with the teachers that we have and the coaches that I work with on a daily basis, we keep thanking them and we keep reaching out to them and letting them know that we are supporting them, because I think that we all have to chip in, right? Because our teachers and our administrators are not the only ones who are educating our kids. It's all of us.
Right. Thank you. Ron, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, just reiterate what Jennifer said. I think it's really important that the parents give the teachers some thank yous, whether it's a written thank you or it's an email. I know that means a lot to them, that the parents are caring about them and that they know that they're trying their very best to do what's really going to help the kids.
Excellent. Thank you all. All right. Now we're going to get in some, this is all serious. It's kind of fun, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how wild you are. All right, Miss Murphy. If any of the 4 bond proposals fail in this November election, or even in May 21, if it's still on that ballot, what are your concerns?
Well, obviously, the future of what our facilities would look like for this district and how we're going to accommodate the growth that we have projected. I mean, our district is growing every single year, and this area of the Metroplex is only getting more populated. So I worry about our infrastructure as a district, and I worry about us being able to, provide for the families that are coming in, because people who come to our district expect what they hear. They expect, for us to act on that reputation that we have. We're a destination, in my opinion. When we moved here 10 years ago, I knew about this district, and this is where I wanted my kids to be. So, that is a major concern for me. It's unfortunate that the bond has to be in 4 different pieces now, but that's another conversation that we can have later. But I think it all boils down to what we're going to be able to provide for our families right now, and what we're going to be able to provide for our families coming in the future.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hastings, if any of the 4 bond proposals fail in this election, or if it fails this election, like I said, and it also fails on the May 2021 ballot, what are your concerns?
Well, my concerns is we won't have places for the kids. One is that in the bond is classrooms, I believe on about 18 of our campuses for pre-K, which we don't have, and the state has mandated that we offer pre-K, which is great. I have no problem with that. I think that's great. The earlier we can start kids learning to read and socialize in a positive way, I think that's great. But if we don't have those facilities, I'm not sure where those kids are going to meet. And a lot of the bond is also about trying to update facilities that we have now. Some of the facilities are, I know it doesn't sound like old, but they're 25 plus years old, and they've got a lot of use in them. We're also a growing district, and we need to expand, just like we've expanded Byron Nelson, and we're finishing up Eaton. We need to expand Northwest High School to be able to hold some more kids before we have to build another high school. So I think those are the big fears, that, and I'm not sure, right now we're talking about just under $1 billion, and that's a lot. There's no doubt about that. That's a lot of money. But if this doesn't pass and we don't start the planning and construction, as we all know, construction costs are not going to go down. So the cost is only going to go up. And so that $986 million could be well over $1 billion for the same thing in 6 months. And we've already delayed 6 months because of COVID. So I think those are the big fears. And because of that, can that bond be issued or still be done with no tax increase? You wait 6 months or a year, and now you're over $1 billion. Do we have to increase the tax rate to make sure we can pay for the bond? So I think this is a timely one that we really need to make sure we pass that bond so that we can get these facilities started. We don't spend all that money at one time. I don't know how anybody could do that, but we don't. It is as needed. We sell the bonds, and we have some really good people that advise us on that. So I think that the people need to understand there's right now, your taxes aren't going to go up. There's no additional taxes for the facilities. And that it will only be what's passed. That's all that will be spent, and it will be spent for what the taxpayers say we will. They want us to spend it on.
All right, thank you. Ms. Murphy, anything else you want to add about concerns that the bonds don't pass?
I think it's just important to remember that, we have families in our district who have never, walked into one of our older schools, right? And just as Mr. Hastings said, we have some buildings that really need some work. Northwest High School is a great school, and it has some significant work to be done through this bond, and it's very necessary for our students. I think that, like Mr. Hastings said, this is it's something that is incredibly important, and it's very unfortunate that we didn't get to vote on it in May, like we were originally supposed to vote on it. And we're behind now. We're behind the 8 ball, and you're right. We absolutely could, incur more costs if this thing gets pushed down the road even more, just because, everything gets a little bit more expensive every year, right?
Yep. All right. Well, sticking similar to that, because for our audience, just for a quick reminder to them. So the bond itself pays for, think about like the school buildings, the schoolhouses. The next thing we're going to talk about is relates to operations like funding for teachers and salaries for employees. So similar question, which is if the voter approved, and that, Ron, this is for you first. If the voter approved tax rate election fails in this election, or in May 2021, if on that ballot, how do you propose to close? Or what, you don't have to propose anything, but what are some of the things that, to let people understand, how would you close the gap, or what are some of the things that might happen to close to close the gap on the $25 million budget shortfall for this school year, and the possibility that it could be up to $55 million over the next 3 years? So if the Vader doesn't pass, what are the concerns about that big old number I just said?
Well, we had to dip into fund balance this year there were no new hires. A lot of positions were not filled. It's just simply through attrition, retirement, moving. We didn't fill any. There were no, when I say no new hires, there were no new positions. We were wanting to offer some CTE courses, but we were unable to because because personnel, it's about 83 to 84%, I think, in our district of our budget is personnel cost. And so we're trying to cut down those costs as much as possible. Unfortunately, the state is not helping us at all. They're actually hindering us. And I think that the big problem is going to be, if this doesn't pass, the Vader doesn't pass in November, we immediately have to start looking at programs, personnel, consolidating programs, trying to figure out every way we can to cut down our personnel cost, because that's the only place that you can really make a difference in the operating budget is through, and so those are tough calls. Do you do fine arts? Do you do athletics? Do you do career and tech programs? What are some things that you can cut? Because those are things that people need to understand that we'll have to start that immediately. We can't wait until next May and say, because our budget, we start working on budget in January, actually before January, for the next school year. So you've got to start looking at where are we going to cut? And $25 million for 1 year and $55 million over 2 years is an enormous amount of, we don't have the fund balance to support that. And I think the other part is, so just so those that may not know, the Vader is a chance for us to recoup some pennies. And now pennies don't sound like much, but when it's 4 or 5 pennies, 6 pennies, it'll make up that $25 million. And it won't cost the taxpayer anything. The cost, there's no tax increase. We're just simply telling the state that you can't touch these pennies. We get them. The district actually gets them instead of going to the state, because the state takes them and puts it all in the general fund. It doesn't go into education. It goes into the general fund and is used however the representatives and the governor want to. So that's the concern, is it really needs to, we really need to pass, those 2 issues need to be passed this November.
Right. Ms. Murphy, your concerns if the Vader fails, what things are you worried about, I guess, that would be cut to close that $25 million budget and up to $55 million to include next year?
Yeah, so Mr. Hastings, hit it right on the head there. This is a big deal You hear stories about districts all of the time, across the country, who are cutting programs, the programs that a lot of kids come to school for, right? They're the programs that get these kids through middle school, get them through high school to their degrees. You know, that could be a reality for us if we don't really work together to make this thing happen, right? We also have to worry about, classroom sizes. If we have to cut teachers, maybe our ratios end up going up, and that's not something that parents really want. They don't want to see more kids in a classroom with one teacher, right? Because that's less individual instruction time for each child in the district. It's things like that that will absolutely impact each individual classroom on our campuses. So it's a ripple effect, right? It will just ripple across the entire district and cause lots and lots of really tough decision making to happen on every campus and at the admin level.
Mr. Hastings, anything else you want to add to that in case, as far as your concerns on that budget shortfall?
Yeah, I think these two items we've just talked about, the bond and the Vader, if they don't pass, there are two groups will be hurt. Homeowners, because chances are property values will go down because the school is cutting programs. And two, the kids. And we're in it for the kids. And the kids are the ones that are going to be hurt. Whether they're in kindergarten, 5th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, they're the ones that are ultimately going to be hurt. And if we're in it for the kids come first. And so we have to have that to fund the programs.
That is an excellent point to finish on for that. Now we're going to try and turn those frowns upside down. And for this next question, Ms. Murphy, let's say that the bond and the Vader are passed. Now, for our viewers who don't know, the Vader hopefully is just a short-term Band-Aid. Hopefully it's a short-term Band-Aid, but that is a perfect segue into this question though for Ms. Murphy. So if the bond and Vader are passed, Northwest ISD will still need the Texas legislature to update school finance again. If you are elected, what are your goals, and how are you going to go about trying to help the school district, help Northwest accomplish that mission of updating school finance again?
So it's $1 million question, right? So HB 3 was really interesting for our district because of everything that's happened and the unfunded mandates and everything that goes with it. So I think advocacy is a huge piece of it. Obviously, Joe, that's something that you do on a daily basis, but I think a larger education initiative needs to take place regarding elected officials. Lots of people are for public education, but sometimes they don't realize that they vote against it at the ballot box, all the way up and all the way down the ballot, right? And I think it's a greater education campaign for us to help people understand who we're sending to Austin to make these bigger decisions for us, right? I think it's important for us to diversify and find more parent advocates within our community who can get more involved on a local and a state level, and can really advocate for the needs of our district specifically, and districts who are just like us, right? And then also a lot of transparency, a lot of empathy, and a lot of accountability right here in our local community. Those are just things that I try to live by every day. And they're the things that I would try to utilize every day in helping our district move forward.
All right, thank you. Ron, same question. So if the bond invader are passed, NISD will still need the Texas legislature to update school finance in a way that's beneficial to Northwest ISD. What is your plan of action to try to make that happen if you are reelected?
Well, I think if we wait, well, you can always continue, but I think right now is the most important time that we have of making sure that the people that we elect are going to address the inadequate funding, especially for fast growth districts. And when I say that, these people are running for office and they want to be elected. They're not running for the fun of it. Well, maybe for the fun of it, but probably not. But right now is when they're listening. And if you are a taxpayer and you are a voter, then you need to let those legislatures know that this is what, and find out, what do they support? Do they support education? Do they still think Senate Bill 3 or House Bill 3 is the be all end all? Because if they do, we don't want to elect them. We want somebody else in there. And to think that, and so you can continue that after the election, but they're elected then. And so then they're going, well, I'm elected, so whatever. But if they're running right now, you can get their ear. And so emails, phone calls, in the last 2 years ago, the retired teachers wanted to get their retirement funded, and they put out through TRA, they put out about this to all the legislators. They had the legislators in, and guess what? In the last legislative session, because they heard, hey, teachers actually do vote. They passed some of those things. But House Bill 3 is a mess. It was a train wreck. It never did what it was supposedly going to do. And so we have to have a legislative body that listens to the people that are in the trenches and goes from there. They don't, in the last legislative session, they didn't fund education past the first 2 years. So who knows what next year holds? Because now with COVID and everything, so they've got to do a better job. So contacting those legislators, talking to people at your church or at clubs or organizations, and telling them you need to contact and put some pressure on those people that are running right now. I'm sorry, I went on a rant.
That's okay.
Trust me, I almost want to smack down like hallelujah. Ms. Murphy, anything else you want to add about that?
All I can add is it's never too late to educate yourself about how our elected officials stand on public education.
Nope.
Just
That's
keep learning.
And just so people understand, our school district is so huge at 234 square miles that we have 2 state senators, we have 5 representatives, and we even have 2 members of the Texas Board of Education. So the difficult thing is we don't have a true champion for our cause when it comes to the House or the Senate, the representatives or the Senate. Even though one senator has a majority of our district, there's a lot on that senator's plate also too, though. So sometimes you'd hope more of a representative, but again, it's difficult to find that champion for us. But we do have schools that are located because of school boundaries in unique places. So I think Sendera Ranch has all three counties located actually. So there's, a whole variety of what could, different elected officials could be in that. And so with the next question now, we will go to Mr. Hastings. When it comes to hiring staff members and administrators, there's obviously law that has to be, when you're hiring law for people and stuff, but what are some of the things that you think, whether the district does, but more so, what could it do more, do you think? What are just, brainstorming ideas or just things you think in general, because again, you're part of a board currently, because you are currently serving right now, and the board has to act together, of course, to make things happen. But to get to get staff and administrators, especially staff, getting teachers that reflect the population of the students they serve, because of the different racial makeups of our school district. What things do you think could happen to help facilitate that for those students and those teachers?
And I know that this is one of the priorities we've had for several years in the district, to have a better representation of all of the kids. And that's one of the reasons we try and keep our pay up and things that, especially with first year teachers, but because we're in competition. We're in competition with other districts that are facing the same dilemma. They want kids to see teachers that look like them, that understand where they come from, whether it's low socioeconomics or whether it's a minority, whatever it is, a disability. They want to see teachers that reflect that. And I think that one of the things we can do as a district is begin really pushing some of the teacher ed programs that we have in the schools, to try and identify those students that really want to go into education, that will reflect and help them through scholarships and things like that, through NEF Foundation, if that's possible, to get them to and kind of tie them back into the district. Because we have a lot of kids that go off and go to college and become teachers, and they don't come back here. It's not that they don't like to, it's just that maybe we don't have an opening that they fit into. But we need to really look at identifying those students that reflect our ethnic diversity, and really try and hire, because we want the best teachers. That's the key. We want the very best teachers because they're the ones that have the biggest impact. But we want to have a diverse faculty at every campus. And so I think those are things we have to look at, and we really have to prioritize finding ways to meet those. And I know the HR department has a lot of things that they work on, but I think those are some things we really need to look at.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, same question. Do you want me to repeat the question, or do you have...
No, I'm okay. Thank you though. Definitely something that Mr. Hastings said is really important to reiterate, is that kids want to, they want teachers that look like them. They want to learn from them. They want to see them every day, and it's very important that we're able to help kids on that level. I think one idea that popped into my head, past, HR best practices and, different things like that, is I actually work at Texas Wesleyan University here in Fort Worth. And I work with our School of Education a lot. And we try to do a lot of different funding programs and bring federal dollars into the school all the time. And we actually do a lot of partnerships, and especially with Tarrant County College District. And maybe that's an avenue that we can take moving forward. Maybe we can have some partnership programs in developing future teachers. Work with local colleges, community colleges, institutions to build those pipelines with those students. We have some different pipelines that we build in our institution that bring kids from the local poly neighborhoods into our dual credit classes and then into our institution as college students. And maybe there's some avenues there to get some of our kids who are at our high schools into those teaching programs, and then bring them right back home to teach right where they learned all their skills. I think that there's a lot of possibilities if we can try to think outside the box and try to look at some significant partnerships within the community right here in our backyard.
Yeah. Ron, anything else you want to piggyback on or finish up with?
I think you're right. The partnership thing is great. I think dual credit, unfortunately, the biggest problem we have is where we're at. We're not in Tarrant County College's system. We're in North Texas, which their headquarters is in Gainesville. And so we're in a community college setting that is, our kids, chances are they're not going to go to Gainesville to go to North Texas Community College or to Corinth where they have another campus. If they're probably going to go to TCC, but I think that trying to form, we've got North Texas coming down to some of our campuses. Texas Tech has got some places at I know at least at Northwest High School, and I think continuing to do those things. TCU, I think we need to reach out to them because they're also ones that are looking to improve their minority students and more equity there. So I think trying to reach out to some, like she said, get some partnerships going that we don't have in place yet.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. Now, this one's an interesting one, and I'll leave it broad enough too, so you can answer however you want. But a lot of times, in general, some people kind of just, they make different assumptions about the federal government and education. But there's certain roles it plays, whether anyone likes it or not. Is there anything from and sorry, Ms. Murphy, this is for you first. Is there anything from the federal level of government that you believe helps students of NISD?
Well, actually, yes, and I'm glad you asked this question because I'm gonna go back a little bit to when I worked for Northside ISD in San Antonio. I worked in the grants and recognitions office, and one of the major things that we did was we worked with the U.S. Department of Education on multiple federal grants, and whether that school district in San Antonio had this dedicated department to finding federal, state, local funds to help put programs on the floor for their students, right? Those same opportunities are open to Northwest ISD, right? Whether it be through discretionary funding or formula funding, it's all there for us. And I think that some individuals may not know that everything that flows through the state comes from the federal government in some way, shape, or form, right? So there's a lot of different stuff. Maybe our district is getting to the size where we need to consider having some individuals who are professionals at admin who look at TEA grants on a daily basis, who look at the U.S. Department of Education grants, maybe NSF, National Science Foundation grants as well, to floor some of the programs or to maybe fill in some of the gaps for funding things that we are really looking at or wanting to do in the future. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's just a lot of red tape that you go through when you're working with, the U.S. government or the U.S. Department of Education, or, working through grants.gov or those types of institutions. But it's all there for us if we can dedicate the time and the effort to make it happen.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hastings, is there anything from the federal government that you believe helps the students of NISD? And if so, can you explain?
There are some funding we receive now. Some of the CTE funds, the Career and Technology Education funds, the SARS, which is our special ed funding. We receive special ed funding for our special ed students from the federal government, our Title I funds, and also our the food programs where we feed the kids, free and reduced lunch, the low socioeconomic, that kind of covers your Title I funding also, which is your low socioeconomic, free and reduced, homeless, that whole population. And I think that I listened to the superintendent of schools in Dallas, and back in I guess August, they were talking about they were going to cut all the federal funding because they weren't going to start school in person. And he said, that's less than 1% of our budget. So when you think about that, the federal government is mandating we start school, that we do this, we do that, but our budget is less than 1%, and I'm sure ours is probably the same way, if not less, because we don't have as many title students as they do. So I think that, less than 1%, the federal government, do they really care about education, or do they just talk about it? And I think that's, again, when you start electing people, elect people that don't just talk about it, but are going to do something about it.
Thank you for that. Ms. Murphy, anything else regarding federal government and schools for Northwest or in Northwest?
I'll just reiterate a little bit of what I already said, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. We just have to decide if it's right for us, if it's the right fit for us, and if it fits the needs of the students that we're currently serving and that we anticipate serving in the future. Right.
And I didn't want to preface the question by saying this, but I wanted to be at the end and bring it up. And that's part of why it was so important for everyone to fill out the census and fill it out accurately also, because that's where those programs, that trickle down comes from, to identify some of those needs. Because I think the last census from a decade ago, I think somewhere between 6 to 8 million children nationwide were not counted. And you can go on to, there's a census tracker to show what areas are actually responding to the census. And there's parts of our school district where it's like at between 50 to 60%, while there's other parts where there's about 80 to 90% return on that census. And so those things matter, because if the federal government's willing to help the school districts with certain things like the free and reduced lunch and things of that nature, that takes that's able to use that money for versus the local taxpayer money that we talked about with Vader and whatnot. So it just ties into that there's always a bigger picture behind the need for some of that stuff. So the census, easy way to always explain that to people, it ties into your schools, helps them out. So the next one, we're going to throw the fun little kind of curveball in here for you. Ron, what motivated you to run for school board? And I guess this time around, what is motivating you to run for re-election on the school board?
I've been in education almost my whole life. My dad was a superintendent of schools. My mother was a teacher. I went into teaching and coaching, and I love kids. I mean, you have to, it's a calling. They always say that it's a calling. You can't be a teacher if you're not called to be a teacher. You can be a person that stands up and lectures, but you're not a teacher. There's so many things that make up being a teacher, and so I wanted to continue to give back to the kids and to the staff, the faculty, the administration that are pouring their hearts and their lives into the kids. And I wanted to come back and help them get the things they need to be successful, whether it's a building or whether it's a curriculum or whether it's health insurance or a pay raise or whatever. And this time it's the same thing, except now I see that we've got some real, because of the funding things, I really want to help work through this. And I think that's because it impacts the kids. And you can't hurt kids. You just can't do it. That's not right. Sorry, but it's just not right.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, what has motivated you to run for school board?
You bet. So my work has always been my mission. I've been in nonprofit my entire career. And everything that I've ever worked with, or every organization I've ever worked with, has been complementary to the public school system. So, when we moved here over 10 years ago, and I started getting involved in this school district after I had been so intimately involved with the administration at Northside ISD in San Antonio, I tried to volunteer and learn this district, as much as I could. And it has been, it has helped my children grow to be the people that they are today. And I'm very grateful for that. And I continue to want to give back to it every single day. So with all the volunteer work that I've done here in the district with, booster clubs, with PTAs, with, mentoring and working with Abbott and those different things, it just makes me want to help it grow even more. And it's my way of giving back and helping it just keep giving to the children that it serves every day. I think one of the most fulfilling professional pieces of my career was when I worked at the public school system in San Antonio. It's a joy to be on a campus every day, just like Mr. Hastings said, working with kids every day, helping them overcome their challenges, giving them what they need to be the next generation that's going to run this country, to be those productive citizens that we're hoping that everyone will be, that's absolutely rewarding every single day. So that's the bulk of why I decided to run. I've thought about it for a couple of years and decided that now, of all years during COVID, that this was the time. But we didn't know COVID was going to happen, right? When we were back in January and February planning for this. But now, it gives the whole process some validity, and knowing that we can really help these kids now, and we can really help this district moving forward after we've gotten through this crisis.
Excellent, thank you. Ron, anything else you want to add about, why you're running for re-election?
Just not really. It's about the kids.
Rock and roll. I appreciate that from both of you too. Just, that's my job as advocacy. For me, I did a lot of advocacy stuff for military, for veterans, wounded service members. And for me, I was like, I'm going to change that to more local And to me, it's really easy. It was an easy transition, actually, to help those who are kind of voiceless sometimes and don't know how to ask questions, both not just kids, but also parents too, So I appreciate both of y'all just running, and wanting to make our community better. All right, so the next question now is going to be for Miss Murphy. We're going to kind of tie back to earlier some of our fire and rage and bring it back up again. But what from House Bill 3 has hurt NISD the most?
Oh,
And we're going to beat it. We have to beat up House Bill 3 a little bit. Maybe we'll give it a little bit of love too. But the reality is that is what is, put us in a certain way. And it was the major legislation that was passed during the last legislative session. So
well,
what House Bill 3 has hurt NISD?
it's pretty simple. I mean, unfunded mandates, right, is, even though some of them are great ideas and things that we absolutely want to have and want to see, they're unfunded. So where are we supposed to find the money for it, right? And then the whole Robin Hood system, we are giving back so much money every year that it's very, very simple. And it's not sustainable. It's so, I don't know, it's just so, it's sometimes I'm speechless when I think about it, right? Because it's just, we got to figure out a better way. And like we talked about this earlier, Mr. Hastings said this too, is, it may change, it may change next year because it was really only designed for 2 years. Is that right? That's what we talked about. So it's the mandates. It's the mandates that we don't have the money to fulfill all the requirements for.
Mr. Hastings. What from House Bill 3?
Yeah.
Do you despise?
There's very little to love about House Bill 3. It's like Jennifer said, unfunded mandates. They lied to us because they told us all the way through that recapture was going to be gone. The Robin Hood, that was going to be gone. That wasn't going to be there anymore. Well, guess what? It's still there, and we're still having to pay. I think it's about $16 million or something like that. I think we paid over close to $120 million in the last 10 years. So you think about $120 million that we could have used in this district. We might not be passing some of the needing all of the bond money. So I think the bad part are, and I can give you a couple, they did do some good things, but the problem is that those were also bad things. Pre-K, they mandated pre-K. They gave us a couple of years to roll it in, but our buildings are full. So for us to have pre-K on all of our elementary campuses, we've got to build. They didn't give us any money for it. They didn't give us any money for teachers. They didn't give us any money for anything other than you got to take care of the pre-K. And I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. I think, it gives us a chance to start to work with those kids and with the parents. And then I think the other part was, and I'm not against this, don't get me wrong, was the pay raise, because they mandated certain pay raise for teachers that had been in the district a certain amount of time. And you had to give them that much. It didn't give us any leeway. It said, you will give them this much money. And now that was fine then, but the problem is that they didn't fund us at a higher level, so that because that bumps everybody up on their pay scale. And if they get a 2% pay raise and they just got a $5,000 or a $2,000 or whatever pay raise, and then the next year you do 2% or 3% or 1%, that's more money. And they didn't give us any more money. So it was a good thing. The teachers needed it. teachers, counselors, I think nurses, librarians, but they didn't, there was no funding program for it. So I think those are the big things is those were things that we have repercussions that didn't happen last year when it went into effect. They continue, and they continue to cost money down the road, and they don't really know how they're going to do that. So I think that's the scary part about it.
Right. And I guess, you know, it was gonna be my next question, but we'll kind of combine both actually. So you can both you can both respond to this actually. But, you know, I asked what hurt NISD the most, but I was gonna say what has helped NISD the most too. So, you know, some of that goes back to what you just got done saying, Ron, as far as the unfunded mandates, you know, so thinking back to that, what are, you know, you can still expand on both, you know, whether you want, as far as, you know, what from HB3 has hurt and helped, and then explain why, if you can. Ms. Murphy, if you want to go back to you actually with that. I know we are talking about hurt, but, and you went into what helped a little bit too, but if you want to expand any further, you can.
Yeah, I think that we're on the same page, honestly, because, you know, the pre-K is out, you know, it's needed, right? I think it's great that is there. But how are we going to pay for it, right? Where are we going to put the kids? It's one of those, it's one of those things. We got to figure it out. If they would have given us the money for it, it would have been easy, right? So I think that that's great. And I remember back, you know, I remember back when it was in the news that the teacher pay raise thing was part of it, and everyone was so excited about it, and it's necessary and it's needed. But again, how do we sustain it moving forward? Because, you know, once, you know, legislation changes or this or that, you know, we can't take that money away from the teachers. We can't change their pay and make them go backwards. So, you know, we have to figure out a way to make it sustainable into the future. And, you know, maybe, and I'm trying to be positive here, maybe it'll help us, push us to be, I don't know, some innovative in some way to find additional funding. I don't know. You know, there's just, it puts you in a catch-22 because it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing at the same time.
Right. Mr. Hastings, anything else you want to add with the good and the bad of HB3?
Well, yeah, just there's probably another bad thing, but it's a good thing. They also mandated a reading program that all teachers had to be trained in reading, and that's great. The problem is that they still haven't, right now, the literacy instructors, there's only a few of them in the state, and we have a really good reading program in the district right now. I mean, it's, we can always do more, we can always do better, but now we're going to ask all of our teachers to be trained in how to teach reading according to the State Board of Education and TEA, because the legislature said that we weren't being very, the state as a whole was not doing a good job. And so that's another one of those where, hey, for districts that have no literacy program, that have very little reading, they don't have reading teachers, they don't have RTI programs that are strong, I think that's absolutely a good thing. Again, it wasn't funded, and we have to pay to have every teacher trained. It's not free. And so the district is responsible for that. But at the same, so it's bad that it's costing us money. It's taking time away from the teachers being able to do their job in the classroom with the kids. And so it's another one of those where is it good or bad? It depends on which side of the window you look through.
Right. Well, and, you know, I'll pick it back off of both of y'all. But it ties into our whole conversation all night long, you know, which is when it comes to the unfunded mandate of we're going to, you know, you're going to provide pre-K to these students in your school district. As we said, you have to build those facilities. You have to build out on the existing elementary schools. That costs money. That goes into the bond money. What we're asking the taxpayers, the taxpayers are being asked to pay for. And then the same thing, like the teacher pay raises, because I can't try to remember. It was like, because when you do a budget, especially for anyone that has done a budget, or any small business owners or business owners that are watching this, you have your set salary or your payroll. Then all of a sudden you're told by someone else, by the way, you're going to have to give an extra $4 million next year. Or I forgot what the magic number, how it hit Northwest. But again, that ties into the Vader money, which is the money that's used for operations, payroll, and things of that nature. And the fact that that is the majority of the NISD annual budget is payroll. And so again, yes, these teachers deserve this extra money, but also who's paying for that? The state wasn't paying for that. It is a taxpayer. You need to find a way to pay for that. And the school district could only find so much ways to pay for that. And that's where the Vader comes into play for now. So hopefully maybe after, sometime later on, we'll do some more, I don't know, after the bond and Vader passes, we'll do some HB3 and legislative forums for the upcoming legislative session, so we can all storm the Capitol down there, or do it via Zoom with our representatives and their staffers, because it matters, at the end of the day, because we know people get fired up for different reasons, and most people don't understand. They just see the property tax and see Northwest, what, and they don't understand the intricacies of what happens. So for this next question, we're going to go to you, Ron. If reelected, explain how you'll go about evaluating the superintendent. How will you know if Dr. Warren is doing a good job?
Well, we just finished. The last board meeting, we went through his evaluation. We have a very detailed evaluation form that is based upon the taper report for the district and for the individual schools, scores on testing and all the other things. And I don't like to use testing as everything, but it does give us a baseline. We'll also look at the district improvement plan and see how many of the items on the district improvement plan have been met or are in the process of being met, and then feedback from the different departments. All of those things go into his evaluation. And one of the things that we decided that we really didn't like, this evaluation the district's been using has been, it's probably been in use now for, I don't know, 15, 18 years. And it needs to be redone. And so we are, as a team of 8, we're working on revamping some of the areas, but I think he does an excellent job. His Facebook Live, his communication, he gets out into the community. He's at everything. Sometimes I think he's cloned himself and he's just sending out robots or something. I'm not sure what, but community meetings, city council meetings, Metroplex or Metroport meetings. If there's someplace that he can go and sell and tell about how great Northwest is, he's there. And I think he does a great job of that. And he's very approachable. And so I think that he does a good job. This was a tough year. There were decisions that were made that there was no way everybody was going to be happy. It just wasn't gonna happen. And so he did what was best for the kids and based upon the input he had from the counties and the health departments on how we start school. So I think that he does a great job, but we base it upon feedback and we use an instrument that tells us how many kids are prepared for college and career, how many have been in dual credit, how many have gotten associate's degrees. So we have a good instrument. We just need some more tools in our toolbox so that we can implement it at a little bit higher level.
All right, thank you. Ms. Murphy, if elected, how will you go about evaluating the superintendent? How do you know if Dr. Warren is doing a good job?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not serving on the board right now, so I'm not privy to the process. However, I, as a career nonprofit philanthropy professional, I do work with boards on a regular basis. And I understand and know about the evaluation processes that they utilize for their presidents, their executive directors, et cetera, et cetera. Additionally, I think one of the things that's very important to know is I've written and executed many evaluation plans throughout my career because of all the federal grants that I've written and been funded for, and state and local grants. So, you know, using qualitative and quantitative data is very important throughout evaluation plans as a whole. Having defined goals, objectives, and outcomes. I'm sure that that's something that's being utilized right now in the superintendent's evaluation plans, which is absolutely critical to be able to track progress on a consistent basis. You know, there's every evaluation plan is going to be unique according to the strategic plan that's in place right now, according to the things that are happening in the district right now. And I'm sure that it was very interesting to do his evaluation this year in this time of COVID, with everything that happened, and you know, with the school year getting cut short this last year. So I think it's just important to have a very clear and concise document that has everything spelled out, and that the superintendent understands and that he can work towards.
Anything else, Ron?
No, I agree with what she had to say. I think that this was a tough year because we didn't have any test scores. We didn't have to show growth for our kids. And so it was dependent upon us to look at other things. And that's why we want to expand some of the rubrics we have to do a better job with, in case something like this were to happen again, we would have more concrete evidence for us to make our decisions.
That's right. An evaluation just isn't which way the wind blows. There's more to it with data.
No.
All right.
If it is, you're in trouble.
That is correct. Mr. Hastings, so what is your stance on where students receiving special education services should receive their services? I tongue-tied myself. Let me say it one more time. What is your stance on where students receiving special education services should receive their services? Specifically, should students with an IEP, also known as an Individualized Education Program, receive their services in the classroom or on a different campus depending on their need?
Well, I think your last few words there are the key, depending on their needs. I think that if at all possible, we want them in the classroom, whether that's with an inclusion teacher in the classroom, an aide in the classroom to help the student take notes or to read test questions, whatever the IEP specifies. But I think that getting the instruction just like the other students, and being able to ask questions and to know the teacher is just really important. Now, we do have students that they need to be in, they're more successful in a self-contained classroom. And we want them to be in the place where they can be most successful. Our special ed population has grown, and because of that, our special ed department has grown with more teachers and to meet the needs of those students. And so it's really important that teachers are trained on what IEPs are and how to implement them in the classroom, that they work closely with the special ed teachers if they are doing inclusion. And so I think that if at all possible, you want them in the classroom. We have some special programs on some campuses simply because that's where the students are most successful. And I know one of the programs we have is at Steele. I think it's called RISE. I'm not that familiar with it. It was started the last couple of years I was in the district, and it is for those kids that are aging out, that need job skills, so they can find a way to feel important and feel like they're giving back, and that they have some importance in the world, and they do. They have a great deal of importance. They're the most. Some of those students, I don't know. They would spread COVID because they want to hug everybody, and they want to be friends with everybody, and they're the greatest kids in the world. I had an uncle that was served through special ed, and it's just it's wonderful that they're able to be in school because they weren't always able to even go to school. So I think in the classroom, if at all possible.
Thank you for that. Ms. Murphy, same question. So what's your stance on where students receiving special education services should receive them? Specifically students with an IEP, which is an individualized education program, service in the classroom or on different campuses, depending on the need.
Well, Mr. Hastings and I agree on this one, definitely, because it depends on the kid, depends on their needs, and it depends on, how their needs change throughout the process too, right? Because they're going to be like any other kid, and, they may learn really well in one setting one year, and then they may need to move to another one the next year because something has happened in their life or whatever. So we have to be flexible in helping these kids to be able to learn to their best of their ability, wherever it is that they need to be learning. I had the privilege of working for a summer camp with kids who have disabilities, all the way from MR up to, autism, lots of different the whole spectrum of disabilities, and every one of them is unique, just like every other kid that we're serving in our district, right? So, their learning plan has to be their learning plan, and we have to help them move through that learning plan, for the duration of time that we have them in our district. So I'm all for following the kid, doing what they need, and serving their specific needs individually.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Hastings, is there anything else you want to add to that at all?
No.
All right, rock and roll.
I'm good. All
right, we're getting close, y'all. Technically, I got 3 minutes left, but I'm still going to squeeze these last few questions in. All right, so Ms. Murphy, if you had a magic wand and you're elected to the school board, what is the change that you would like to see in the district that is realistic?
Realistic. I had a magic wand and I could
magic
go
wand, like you actually got the rest of your board to agree with you, and you were able to have a magical of influence on everyone. Yeah.
Well, there's probably two things, and I kind of touched on it earlier, and it's it's the advocacy thing, right? Because we need more people to advocate for public education, and it needs to be a bigger education campaign, okay? So if we can help educate our parents and help educate everyone about everything that's happening in public education in the state of Texas, boy, that would be amazing, right? The second thing is if I had my magic wand, I would solve all the transportation problems that our district has. I mean, seriously, because, you know, and it's something that, you know, it's hard to address because, you know, we have so much development. Our roads are inadequate, you know, the trains. And it's just so very dangerous for a lot of our high school students who are driving to school every day, especially when you're going from one side of the district to the other, right? So we were in a meeting the other day, and I think it was half of the parents in the room, they were all Northwest High School parents, half of the parents in the room, half of them have had kids in an accident in the last year on their way to or from school. So it's just one of those things, right? And it's growth. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's great, but there's problems that we have to overcome to make our district even greater.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. If you are reelected to the school board, and knowing that the school board has to work together, but if you had a magic wand, what change or changes would you like to see to the district that are realistic, that you could just get everyone on board to move forward on?
I think that I'm going to throw the cape a little wider. That the legislatures, after each individual legislator, would have to come back and do a town hall meeting at every school in the district and explain what they did to help education. Every one of them. Because I guarantee you, if they had to come back and face the people that are in the trenches, there might be a lot more work done in Austin than there is now for education. So that would be my magic wand. I want them to be held responsible. And then the other one, Jennifer hit it on the head, infrastructure. It's just, we're growing faster than, and again, it's one of those where we're in 3 different counties. And so, maybe we'll do it. And we're in, Fort Worth. Well, we're growing down south too. So we can't do a whole lot up there. Although most of the economic growth is up in this area, as opposed to, I won't go into that because it makes me angry. But I think that the infrastructure, getting it done, working with our industry people in our area to get, and the other one would be that the industry is, I don't want to say more welcome, but because they're welcome now, but that they feel like they want to come into our district and offer our kids stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean training and jobs, so that the kids know, hey, if I do this, I've got a job at Hillwood. I've got a job at Mercedes-Benz. I've got a job at whatever. So I think those are my magic wand moments.
Right. So that last one, then you're saying, like with the whole Alliance Business Corridor, if there was a way to get them more in sync for some OJT, some direct pipeline for those kids that didn't want to go the college route, but there's other ways they can go about it though, whether it be, just through some of the high-speed stuff that the school district provides through those CTE courses, through those career and technical education. Excellent. All right. So very last one, a little bit over, but we'll all survive. So although this is an unprecedented time of social distancing and new norms, how are you reaching the students, parents, and community members that are unfamiliar with you? This will be to Ron first.
Well, it is tough, but I have a Facebook page that I get instant messages on. I get people that have questions. I have my email address is out there where and my phone, I even have some phone calls. So you just have to be open and be available. You know, there's before COVID and social isolation, it was much easier because you could go to functions and meet people and visit and create working relationships, and that's more difficult now. But I think that just having your name out there, letting them know that you're open to listen, and that you may not be able to solve all their problems, but you're there to listen and take in what they have and try to improve the situation.
Excellent. And, before I get to you, Ms. Murphy, after this is over, on the advocacy page on Facebook and on the YouTube stream, I'll make sure to put both of the links to both your candidacy pages, because I know both of you have Facebook candidacy pages, so I'll make sure to put that on also, though. So, so for you then, Ms. Murphy, through this unprecedented time of social distancing and new norms, how are you reaching students, parents, and community members that are unfamiliar with you?
Yeah, so I, like Mr. Hastings, I have a Facebook page, and I try to post as often as possible. Not too much, but I try to post some thoughts on at least a Monday every once in a while. I've remained very involved with the booster clubs that I've been serving with, and the PTAs, and just trying to be on a Zoom call whenever I can be on a Zoom call. I've been working some behind the scenes stuff to help out with some other initiatives that are happening with the district. So, you know, trying to just keep abreast of everything that's going on in the community. You know, our neighborhood here we've tried to socially distance, but still tried to remain connected with each other through you know, through some learning pods. I've noticed you know, some different people put some kids together to do some learning while we were in full remote. So just reaching out to them and offering help. And I also try to stay connected to all the colleagues I have on the campuses, the teachers, the principals, the administrators. Just try to make sure they're doing okay and talk to them. And see what's going on their campuses to see how we can help once we get out of this and we can start getting back into the schools and volunteering, because we know that those needs are still there and they still need to be met. And you know, it's just it's an interesting digital dilemma of just trying to stay connected and offering support through, you know, a camera, through a phone, or through handwritten notes. It's old school, but it makes a difference.
Right. Well, I appreciate y'all's time tonight, and I'm going to let you both have like a little 2 minutes to say your exiting the elevator pitch real quick. I know that was like kind of a soft landing for both of y'all too. So Ron, you first. You know, what would you like to tell everyone? One last thing in this forum.
That I'm drained. First of all,
That's shorter than your.
Joe, I want to thank you for your service for the country and your sacrifice, and I want to thank you for the time and effort you put into helping our district, because volunteers like you are the backbone of what we do. Without you, it doesn't. I mean, we're just here. But I think that the biggest, what I want to leave about myself is I've got a daughter that works at Byron Nelson. I've got a granddaughter that's going to school at Byron Nelson. I've got friends that were teachers and administrators and even students that are in the district. And it's really important to me that I can continue to support them, to give them the things they need to be successful. We're not always able to do it, but we need to try as much as possible. So the biggest thing I want out of this, vote, make sure you vote for your legislator that will support education, vote on the bond issue, vote on Vader. Make sure that you understand there's no increase in taxes. And if so be it, vote for me. Thank you.
Ms. Murphy, any parting words?
Yeah, sure. I just want to thank you, just like Mr. Hastings said, thank you for all the advocacy you do for the district. You're one of the smartest people I have ever talked to. You're so well versed in everything that's going on, and we need more people like you. Mr. Hastings, I just want to say thanks for your service to the board and to the district. You guys have taken a beating this year, and you know, it's a thankless job at times, and I understand that, and I just want to say thank you for your service there. You know, we moved to this district over 10 years ago, and my kids were, let's see, one was not in school yet, and the other one was in second grade, and now I've got a senior and an eighth grader. So, you know, this district has given our family an incredible educational base for them to leap off of, to go into their college years and into their adult lives. And there's just so much about it that parallels with the work that I do every day in my nonprofit and philanthropy work. And a piece of it, I feel like I have to give a piece of it back. And I want to be able to provide for other families what this district has provided for us. And I think that that's an important piece of who I am and how I would be an asset to the board. So that's really all. I think that this has been a great discussion tonight. And we've talked about a lot of different stuff, and I just appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate both y'all taking your time on this Thursday night, you know, to participate, and thank all of our viewers who watch this also. Like I said, I'll put this on YouTube here after a little while, but, you know, for our Facebook viewers right now, you know, winner or loser, regardless, moving forward, whichever of you, you know, that doesn't win, I hope you still involved with the school district and still help, you know, one way or another with everything, because we know that it's important to educate our fellow community members and to, you know, to help the kids in any way, and our staff members too. So thank you all so much. I appreciate everyone for watching this forum for Place 7 on the NISD Northwest Independent School Board of Trustees position. Early voting starts on Tuesday. So I bid goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay healthy.